Okay, and away we go. So this is our OPAC for 1811. We are really excited about some of the changes that are coming in 1811. Just remember that the upgrades will start in June and they'll continue throughout the month. We will do them typically after you're closed local time, and we'll go ahead and put that standard note on your staff client with the upgrade date with the week prior, and that'll be in that red box so that everyone can see that one. And again, the only thing you have to remember to do is clear your cache. We do have the webinar schedules and all of those things posted. If you need those, I'm gonna go ahead and pop that into our chat.
I can do it, Donna, I got it.
Oh, thank you, okay. And I will go ahead and hit that window real quick and just show you. So it's on, oh, it did not like that, did it? All right, so I am off to a flying start. Just gonna try that again. There we go. There's our upgrade webinar schedule. And so we are going ahead and doing 2 of each session. This is our second of what's new. And then just be aware that we do have all of our upgrade notes and the manuals and the schema and things like that. The schema definitely does have a new look this time. So don't be startled by it. It's very different, but it's actually kind of a little bit neater look to it once you get used to it. And then so all of our upcoming webinars. So this afternoon, if you don't have anything to do, at 2 o'clock Eastern, we do have our first OPAC and public user webinar. And then we also have that repeated on the 14th. We're also doing tomorrow the circulation and patrons, again on the 9th. Technical services will be on the 7th and the 13th. And then administration and reports will be on the 8th and the 15th. And that webinar agenda will be up later today. So lots of exciting things happening, some really neat features coming and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So one of the really neat things that we do like about 1811 is that a long desired facet has been added, and that is the collection code. So you'll see that your collections are now something that can be searched limited by using facets. So that is a huge thing. I know that a lot of libraries really do like those facets. It makes things so much easier to be able to use not only your item types and your shelving locations, but also your collections to be able to limit materials. So again, your collection codes are now showing up as a facet when you do searches in the OPAC. So a really neat feature to be able to go ahead and do that one. You don't have to go into an advanced search anymore and select it. You can do it from that basic search and really get those things going in there for that one. So that's a really exciting feature. There are some changes, there are some CSS changes that may affect the look of your OPAC, to just be aware of it. And really what it is, it's updating the look and the feel of the OPAC to make it more up to date for what people are used to looking at when they're looking at internet sites. So the font gets a little bit bigger, the font style does change, the static bar at the top of the window does change colors, things like that. But nothing too major. Our amazing web guru, Lucas, has been working on it and is making sure that we have all of that kind of taken care, looking at and being aware of it. And if you have any custom changes, those are the libraries that might need to kind of double check that. But for instance, here's what it looks like. This is our demo site. And so you can go ahead and see that there are some changes here as far as what it looks like, but nothing huge. So again, just kind of be aware that if you do have any custom code on your site, that we will want to go ahead and take a look and make sure that everything is looking the way that it's supposed to. Okay. These changes, these CSS changes will not be overridden. So yours will not be overridden by this. But if it doesn't, like for instance, if your CSS doesn't say anything about the color of the Koha logo, that might be something that you need to take a look at. So it'll fill in anything that's empty, but just kind of be aware of that. So, okay. So Christopher is asking about the collections code. I believe that is actually the description. I think that we just have our collection codes in there as caps, but we'll double check that in just a minute.
Yes, Donna. We weren't very imaginative when we put our descriptions in. We copied our code right over. So
Okay.
it will show and display the description that you set in your authorized values.
Okay. That's what I figured. We just took a shortcut. So, okay. So another one is there is a new feature that only libraries that accept hold pickups will appear on the drop-down menu when you request an item. So for instance, you can see that we have the East, Main, North, South, and West branch. But when I go ahead and try to request this item, go through the process, it's going to ask me to log in. Okay, so now when I come to this pickup location, you will see that the East branch is not showing. So you do have the ability to say when you're setting up your branches, whether or not that branch will be a place where patrons can pick up holds. So I know that's going to be really helpful for those of y'all that are in multi-type library consortia, for instance, where you don't necessarily want patrons going to a school library to pick up materials. So that's going to be a huge help for some of y'all with that sort of thing. So just be aware of that one. That's a new system preference. Okay. There's another system preference that will let you determine what patron categories can see the OPAC hidden items in the OPAC. So for instance, the most common thing that you would see is, for instance, most patrons will not see no, I cannot type today. LABYRINTH So for instance, I'm not logged into the OPAC right now. So when I go ahead and look for this, there's only 3 items, okay? And only 2 of those are showing. So we can see that there is something that is being hidden by OPAC hidden items. But since we have gone ahead and specified that staff can see these items, you can see that that now shows up. Okay, so same search, but that one is now showing up. So again, this I don't know is going to be used too terribly often, but I can see there would be times, for instance, when a staff member is working with a patron on an OPAC, they know that that item is in the OPAC, they just can't find it. They can log in as their staff, and then it'll go ahead and show that item that is hidden by OPAC. Yes, Christopher, it did. That's always been one of those things, is that it shows what the count is 3, even though it is hidden. So, okay, so that can be, again, something that's kind of helpful without having to kind of go and find a staff client to log into. Staff would be able to see those particular things. I could also see this perhaps like with teachers. If you're in a school system that you want, teacher materials to not necessarily show, but if they're logged into the OPAC, it's an easy way for them to be able to see them. So other things such as, other than staff, it might be helpful to be able to let other patron categories be able to log in and see those things, even though they are hidden in the OPAC for one particular reason or another. So. Okay, and that is the OPAC Hidden Items Exceptions system preference. Okay. Another neat feature, we don't have it to show right now, but just like we have the Overdrive integrated search, we can now have the recorded books Overdrive search set up too. So if you are a client of recorded books, One Click Digital, you can go ahead and have that set up so that you can go ahead and see not only your Overdrive collection when you're searching things, but also your recorded books. There is an amazing blog post and video that Kelly has done on that one. So you can go ahead and see that one there to be able to look at that. So that's another neat feature that we've got. Those two, both Overdrive and recorded books, are in there. Okay, I'm gonna hop over to the staff client now. We're gonna talk a little bit about circulation. So there's a new feature called stock rotation. There's, of course, system preferences that go along with this. We need more system preferences every time we do enhancements, and it just helps us to customize things a little bit more. So I know it can get overwhelming, but they really are helping us to be able to customize more and more specifically as we go through things. So with a stock rotation, there's 2 system preferences and a cron. They're basically what stock rotation is going to let you do is if you are a multi-branch system, one of the common things in public libraries, at least, is to rotate your large print collections. So perhaps every 90 days, you go ahead and take 50 of these large print books and send them to another location, and then you get somebody else's. And that helps kind of keep your collection fresh for your patrons. And that's exactly what this stock rotation is going to do. Okay. So once this is enabled, it goes ahead and shows on the Tools menu. Okay. And you can see right down here, there is the stock rotation. And basically what this does is it changes the home library of the item after a specific period that you define, and then it goes ahead and triggers that to be moved. You're going to be doing this again through system preferences and through a cron, and then there's also reports that are going to show you what needs to be moved at certain times. So it's a really neat way to be able to kind of do this. And again, it goes ahead and helps move materials back and forth. It is pretty straightforward to be able to go ahead and set these up. You can see that we do have our manage, where you can go ahead and choose your items and things like that, where things go, all of those sorts of things. It does need to go branch to branch. So we had a question earlier about could we use that from, like new to regular fiction, things like that. That's not going to work. It does need to be branch to branch. So just be aware of that. But if you're a multi-site library that does go ahead and shift materials from one location to another on a regular basis, definitely take a look at this stock rotation. It might be a helpful feature for y'all. Okay. Another neat feature is going to be something that we can't really demonstrate immediately, but it is the ability to email receipts for account payments and write-offs. So again, another step forward to not having to print out receipts for everything. You can go ahead and set these notices up along with a system preference, and then whenever something is written off or paid, the patron will go ahead and receive that email. So it is, you can see that there are 2 new notices here. One's called account payment and one's called account write-off. So they are independent. You don't have to have the write-offs going to the patrons. You could just have the payments being sent as receipts to the patron. There's a system preference called use email receipts that needs to be set to send. And once that is on, then that email will be automatically generated when that account notice has been set. Okay. When we were testing it, we did discover that if you write off multiple lines individually, they come as individual notices. So just be aware of that too, is that, depending on how many you do or how you do them, the patrons may receive multiple notices. But that is a great new feature to be able to go ahead and email our patrons their receipts instead of printing those out. And again, they'll be set up just like anything else. You can see that this is set using Template Toolkit. If y'all are not familiar with that, that is a way that we are going with our notices to give us more flexibility with them. So instead of the hungry alligators, we do have the square brackets, but you can see that there is those notices as far as how to be able to send those out. Another really exciting one that I am very happy to see, because this causes a lot of issues, is the ability to void credits. So if I go ahead and look for one of our patrons. So Christopher is asking, will staff know at the time of payment or write-off that a receipt is being emailed? I don't believe there's anything that tells you that. It's just going to be one of those things that staff know or don't know as to whether or not that is set up for their system. And then, of course, you would need to look and see if there is an email account on that patron's record when you're setting those up. Okay. So when I look at Laura, who, shame on her, she has quite a few balances and things like that.
Shame on her. She'll pay her bill. Don't worry, Donna.
Yeah, right. Okay. You can see that we do have some credits on here, and you have that wonderful little void button right there. And so you can void a refund. You can void a write-off. You'd be able to void a payment, all of those sorts of things. And you might also notice that the reverse button is gone. Hallelujah. The reverse button caused quite a few issues with as far as how it would change things in the system. Now the reverse button is gone. You do have the void button, and it just wipes that out completely. So it really makes it a lot cleaner when we're looking at account tables and things like that. So for instance, you know, this was a $20 credit. It wasn't supposed to be $20. I can go ahead and void that credit right there. It asks me to verify. I say yes, and it's done. And it does show you that it was voided. So it kept the original date of entry, so you can see that something did occur on that day. And then you can also see that it was voided and set back. So really terrific to be able to have those voids there instead of the reverses, and it just makes it much cleaner. And again, you can kind of fix anything that you've done. So that's a really neat thing there. Okay, another system preference. That's going to be just a little time saver. And again, a lot of what we do see in Koha is just these enhancements are just the time savers to make things more efficient. So it's a new system preference called Show Last Patron. You can set it to show or don't show. And once it is set to show, you'll see that there will be this link here on the upper right of the page saying Last Patron. And what I can do is go ahead and click on this, and it will take me to the last patron that I was dealing with. And this works in multiple modules. So it's not just the circulation, but it'll go ahead and take me to that last patron that I was working with. So a neat little feature, that show last patron, is going to go ahead and take me back and forth. And what's really nice is you do have that privacy still. It doesn't tell you who you're going to, but it does say, here, take me to the last patron that I was dealing with. So that link is a really neat feature that it'll take me to that last consulted patron. The only places it doesn't appear is places where it kind of makes sense. So it's not going to show in the serials module. It's not going to show in acquisitions, and it's not going to show in course reserves, but it will show in the primary things that we use as far as searching and circulation and those sorts of things. So a neat feature. Okay, this is another little one that we're excited about. Again, another system preference called Hide Personal Patron Detail on Circulation. Okay, so what this is going to do, and let me see if we have this one turned on right now or not, but what this is going to do is exactly what it says. So it will hide that personal patron detail on your circulation page. Okay, so we have it set to hide, and you can see that it'll hide the patron's phone number, email address, street address, and city on the circulation page. So when I go to circulation, and I go to the checkout page, and I go ahead and we'll bring up Laura again.
Laura doesn't have any personal information.
Okay.
So if you go to like Richard Belding, he has personal information.
Okay. So you can
the same thing, so that's why I
know. We're really sloppy with our patron registrations, in case y'all haven't noticed. We don't follow the rules that we're supposed to. So, but you can see that there is no personal information shown on this checkout page, which is, again, a nice feature that it goes ahead and kind of maintains some of that privacy. Now, if you do go to their details page, that does show. But again, for most of our staff, if they are just strictly going through that checkout, that information is not immediately viewable. It does go ahead and hide that information. So again, little things, but still trying to help keep that privacy as much as we can. Without people accidentally seeing stuff that maybe we don't want them to be able to see if they shouldn't be doing it. Circulation notes. So a lot of libraries don't use this, but there is a feature called Checkout Note that when a patron has something checked out, they have the ability to go ahead and add a note to that so that the librarian can see. It's used in a lot of different ways. I've seen it used, for instance, a patron takes home an audiobook and disc 3 doesn't play. They can go ahead and add a note while that item is still checked out so that they don't forget when they take it back that there's something wrong with one of those discs. Or they get halfway through a book and realize that pages are torn out or something like that. So that checkout note is something that's, again, not commonly used, but it is a system preference. But what's nice now is that you're able to see those checkout notes right here on your home page. Before, it would show when you checked the item in and was emailed to the librarian, but a lot of times those are easy to miss. So now it does go ahead and show on the main page. And so you can go ahead and see that note. This is permissions based, that you can decide who has the ability to mark it seen or not seen. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up that checkout note pending. Okay, and so right here, you can see they lost this book. We're not going to mark it as seen because I need to talk to someone about that, because this Andrew character is a real problem. He's always losing our stuff. So we need to talk about this one. It's not a simple, oh, okay, we need to do something with it. But you can go ahead and do that little check mark and then mark it as seen if you have multiple ones there too. So you've got some options for those. And then once we do see it, you are able to see both the seen and the not seen tabs. So kind of some neat features there that you can still keep track of whether they've been seen or not. It's not like a one shot and it's done. So that checkout notes, I think, is probably going to be a little bit more useful now because it's a lot easier to see those and it's not kind of a one shot and then you don't see those anymore. So some neat features with that one. The next one is something that's been asked for quite a lot, and that's under the course reserves, the ability to add multiple items at once. So when I go ahead and create or have my course there, this works both when you're creating it and when you're editing it. I can do a batch add reserves, and that goes ahead and gives me that nice big barcode box that I can go ahead and scan all of my barcodes in and say change all of these items to whatever it might be for my course reserves. I know there's quite a few libraries that are using that amazing code that was developed by Ed and Spencer at McKinney to change course reserves to displays for public libraries. And so this would be a really easy way to be able to do that too, that you can just add a whole bunch of materials at once, make all of those changes, and then move on from there. So that batch add is going to be really helpful. And again, that is both once you've created a course and also when you're creating it for the first time. It'll work, you'll have that box both times to be able to add those. So again, kind of neat to be able to do that. So that batch add, I think, is going to be more and more helpful for folks with those course reserves. Okay.
Donna, one thing, I accidentally hit that we were going to answer this question live, so and I can't go back. Christopher Brandon asked, is there a way to delete the scene list? So once you have seen it, it will go away to, it will go to leave that. So you can go ahead and mark scene so they can see that, and then it will disappear. There you go. And then once you go back to that page, it will be gone.
Okay, so it's missing from there. So yeah. Okay. And then under circulation, and you have your checkout notes tab. Okay, and you can see that it is marked seen, so it's no longer showing as active, more or less.
And you can always hide all the ones that you've seen already. So if you hit that hide scene, then it will disappear. And we can certainly purge the hide scene like we do purchase suggestions through a cron.
Okay. Okay. Acquisitions. So a neat thing, a neat change is that you can now add to a basket from a file. So when we've got our basket set up and we've got that file that we've imported from our vendor, we can go ahead and add from a staged file or from a new file. Okay, so again, neat functions. That add from a new file just brings it straight in. A lot of times you're going to have that staged file anyways, but you can go ahead and bring those in too. So again, just some neat features to make it a little bit easier, a little bit more natural of, you know what, let me go ahead and just create this basket. I'm going to pull that file straight in. I don't have to stage it. I haven't staged it, any of those sorts of things. So depending on your acquisitions workflow, definitely play with this one. It will definitely take a couple of steps out of your process for you. So neat little feature. As we've talked about it, it's a small but satisfying change. So it is a neat little way to be able to go ahead and make your process just a little bit easier. Okay. A couple of things too, as far as the workflow for when you've actually received your abilities. So let's go ahead and grab this one. No, not the one I was looking for. What you're going to be able to do is you can go ahead and not only can you adjust invoices, but you can also separate replacement costs and retail prices. So let me go ahead and receive a shipment. Let's try that one. Okay. So here we've got replacement costs and actual costs. Again, those are separated. So we can go ahead and have different prices in here if we wanted to. So that's a neat little function to be able to do that. And it doesn't impact your budgeted costs either, which is a nice feature. Okay. And then for the invoices, let's just go ahead and see what I've got as far as my invoices in here that I can play with. Okay, there we go. So this is a closed invoice. If something has happened, I have no idea what, but something has happened, you need to go ahead and make adjustments. You just go ahead and look at the details, and you can see here that you've got some adjustments here that you can make. So this one, the price is $2 less than what it was when we received it, or whatever our process is as far as acquisitions. So I can go ahead and add another adjustment to it. And I'm going to say, actually, no, we got another notice that it's actually another $3 less. Again, you do have your drop down, which means that it is going to be an authorized value, so you can control what your reasons are in here. And we're going to say it was a processing issue. I can add any sort of note. I can indicate what fund that money needs to either go back to or be charged from, depending on what the adjustment price is. So I'm going to go with adult book. And I do have the option to encumber it while that is open if I haven't closed that one. I'm going to go ahead and update my adjustments there. Okay. And so now you can go ahead and see all of those in there. And if you did make a mistake, you can go ahead and delete it and work again. So again, it's not one of those things that's highly used, but for those folks that do use this, it is incredibly frustrating to have to go back and redo all of these sorts of changes and open the invoices again and all of that sort of stuff. So this is just a really nice way to be able to make those adjustments without having to reopen the invoice and edit the orders and all of those sorts of things. So again, one more thing that makes it just a little bit more flexible. And I'm thinking particularly about some of those libraries that use acquisitions not just for books, but also for tracking like supplies and things like that. So again, another really great way to be able to be a little bit more flexible with tracking costs and all of those sorts of things. So that is the ability to add adjustments to the invoice. Okay. Cataloging, quite a few enhancements to cataloging in 1811. So one of the neat ones, it's again, more system preferences, but it's called, it allows you to store the bib records creator and the last modifier in mark fields. So if I go into administration and find these, okay, there's mark field for creator ID, mark field for creator name, and then you can also do mark field for modified ID and for modified name. So you can track not just who created the record, but also who modified it last. And I know that's something that we often get questions for, of, you know, can I see who was the last person to go ahead and do this? And what this will do is it'll go ahead and take the login and store that, or the initials, things like that, in that record. And so here you can see these are the 4 system preferences, and you can identify what mark field subfields you want those in. So kind of a neat feature, again, that you can go ahead and keep a little bit better idea of what's going on as far as who's done that. And there are ways that you could have done it before, doing reports and all of that sort of thing in logs, but this just makes it a much cleaner, much easier way to be able to see who was the last person to edit or update those records, things like that. Okay. Another fun thing is mark modification templates.
1 second, Donna.
Oh.
We did get asked, does the cataloging log need to be turned on for that information? My guess is yes, but I will find out. I'm not sure.
Okay. And see, my thought would be no, but that'll be really interesting to find out what the answer is.
Oh, Donna.
All right, I'll bet you a Coke the next time I see you. So who's right?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, mark modification templates. Again, a new feature in here. So previously the only option was to add or update, which wouldn't create a new field if one already existed. So now there is the feature that when I want to go ahead and do something, I'm going to go ahead and add a new action. I have update existing or add new. And so this is really neat. So for instance, if there was a, I don't know, I'm not a cataloger, y'all know that, I'm gonna make up a number. So if there wasn't a 437C in the record, it would go ahead and add that field. If there was a 437C, it would go ahead and just update that field. So it gives you some flexibility as far as what you want to happen. So I can put this in here and say, you know, I want to update the existing or add new 437C with Donna in there. Again, completely making things up, so you catalogers don't panic. But so basically what that's going to do is it's going to look and see when I'm go ahead and running my mark modifications, is there a 437C? If there is, we're going to update it with the value Donna. If there's not, we're going to add the value Donna. So again, a neat function that's going to really kind of help with some of those flows. Kelly did discover that if you are using this with 952s, you need to be careful how you do that, because you do have the potential to add multiple 952s even though you weren't intending to. So just kind of be aware of that as you're doing it. Again, with mark modifications, we always say, ask us. We are more than happy to try things out and test them and work with you for that. So okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cancel that one because that's just a really bizarre mark modification template. Okay. Another one that has been added introduces the date accessioned column in your catalog records. So again, we'll go ahead and do, we're not going to get anything back on that one, but let's see. Okay. So if we look at our books here, okay, you can see that we have this new column here called date accessioned. So not sure if that's something that's going to be helpful to y'all or not. This is not able to be changed through the configure columns yet, but we can hide this through jQuery. Let us know if you do want that. That would be a ticket because these tables are so configurable by libraries that we would need to kind of make sure that we have the right one for y'all. So let us know if that is something that you don't want showing in your staff client to be able to see those sorts of things. Okay, so just be aware of that. But your data session is now showing in your cataloging or in your catalog tables. And the reason that we talk about that is, for instance, we don't have, you know, necessarily all of those same sort of, like we don't have shelving location as a separate column. So it would be in different numbers. We would need to adjust that jQuery based on what you're doing. So just kind of be aware of that. Let us know if that's something that you want us to go ahead and add to your site. Okay. And again, I think what I had mentioned just briefly before was the configure columns, and there's been some more columns added to the configure column section. So under administration, with our configure columns, when you take a look at the circulation section, all right, clicked on the wrong button. When you look at the circulation section, there we go. So we've got some extra things that have been added in there. So you're able to see what's visible in the checkout history tables. So we are getting more and more sections through here as far as being able to see what's in those configure columns. And if this is not something that you've played with before, we definitely encourage you to take a look at this. Using these configure columns is a really easy way to be able to customize what is shown and what is not shown in your staff client and in the OPAC to a certain extent. Okay, now another one that we are really excited about, for the, yeah.
Donna, you win.
Do I really?
Yeah. So you do not need to have the cataloging log on to use the ability to store the bibliorecords creator and last modifier and mark. They are independent. Way to go, Donna.
Yay! I thought I remembered that, but again, you can see I wasn't that confident with my response. Thank you for fighting that, Kelly. That's good to know. So again, that is going to be something that is really helpful then, so that you don't have to have that log on and you can still have that information tracked. So that is a really terrific resource for that sort of thing. So, okay, so under administration classification sources, I know this isn't something that most people take a look at, but there's been a really neat feature. This is going to be really handy, particularly if you use Library of Congress or something specialized. You now have the ability to define your own classification splitting rules. So a really neat way to be able to go ahead and kind of put those things in there. So we're thinking not only just like, for instance, as far as, you know, setting up the splitting rules for when you're printing labels and things like that, but you can also go ahead and set that, for instance, let's see, right here. So say you want to change your call numbers in here, and don't panic about this, we'll help you with all of this structure. It looks incredibly foreign, but for instance, what this is doing is we are adding spaces to call numbers. You can change spaces, you can move spaces around, things like that. So let me see here, if I put this call number in, if that is going to work right. Take a look. Okay, so this is what it would have shown as before. This is what it's going to show, or this is what it shows as, but this is how it's going to show on that label that we print out. So one of the issues that we do see a lot of times with Library of Congress is when you put like the REF or another code at the beginning of it, it kind of throws all of your splits off. This goes ahead and fixes that because you can specify where you want that to split. And so Andrew had gone through this and shown us all of the text on this one. But basically what this is doing is saying I want it to, when you see a space, I want it to split. And when you see a period, I want it to split, things like that. So we can do a lot of really cool things with this one. So if you perhaps want to relabel your collection, if you want things to change, if it's not splitting the labels the way that you want it to, a nice feature that you can go ahead and set those up and have it split the way that you want it to. Okay, so again, pretty cool little feature there. We will again help you with setting up all of that regex as far as figuring out how those things need to be set up to go and all of that sort of stuff. Okay, this is something that we really can't show you. But there are some enhancements in inventory. So you can go ahead and it'll tell you if there are items that have possibly been scanned out of order. So you've got some that's one of the options, and then you have some additional options too in here. So for instance, you have the check the barcodes list for items that are shelved out of order. And then it'll show you when you've done your inventory. If you do the compare barcodes list results, it'll show you things that are missing. So the item was in the list, but it's not in the barcodes file. It'll tell you things that were found in the wrong place. So again, the item was scanned was in the barcodes list, but not in the generated list. If it's still checked out, it'll tell you if the item is checked out, but was on the list. and it has not been automatically checked in. It'll tell you if the barcode is not found, and it'll tell you that if the item has the withdrawn status but was still in the barcodes file that you added. So again, a lot of new features to help you really make that inventory tool even more helpful. We are working on a blog post on this, so that'll be coming soon, and that will have a video associated with it, because so much of this doesn't make a lot of sense until you actually see it in action. So we will have a blog post coming on that too, but just be aware of that if you're taking on inventory anytime soon, that there are some neat features that have been added to the inventory tool to be able to go ahead and update those and make it a little bit more helpful for y'all. Okay, this is one that I am really, really excited about, and this is under administration. So I know that a lot of libraries don't track the last time a patron was active. It was a huge performance killer, and so this is something that is really a neat feature now. So it's called Track Last Patron Activity. Okay, it is a system preference, and you just need to go ahead and make sure that you turn that on. Okay, so if you go ahead and set this to do, every time the patron connects, the borrower last seen will be updated. This was a huge performance killer, like we said, and so most libraries have that turned off right now. What this will do is it'll update the first time the patron connects each day. So you may say, well, why does this really matter? Well, a lot of libraries now have patrons that never physically come into the library. They're your e-resource users, so they only use Overdrive. They don't actually check books out from the library. They don't necessarily log into the OPAC. They go straight to Overdrive, those sorts of things. So the ways that you would normally be able to see when they last used the library is not something that they would typically be able to do. With this now, you can go ahead and turn this on. It does not impact your performance. And you would be able to see when a patron has connected via something such as logging into the OPAC or anything with those SIP devices such as Overdrive that goes ahead and seeks that authentication information. So that was a really nice feature now that we're able to do that. I know I've talked to quite a few libraries who said, we expire patrons because, they don't look like they're using the library because they never come in, but they use Overdrive, and so now they're upset about that. So go ahead and turn this on if you're in that sort of situation, and you'd be able to see when those patrons last connected. So I see Linda has a question. Is there a report generated for this? Yeah, we can go ahead and set up a report for that. There is some pretty standard ones that say, track last patron activity, things like that, but let us know how we can help as far as setting up those reports. Yeah, absolutely. And again, if the patron connects 4 or 5 times during the day, it just does it that first time. So it's really, again, it's just, yep, they were here this day. So again, huge feature for those libraries that do have like those Overdrive only patrons, things like that. Okay. Another one that we really can't show you, but that is a really neat, we're very happy that it finally got fixed, is that's going to do when you're importing patrons, you can match by card number or user ID. There was a bug for a while that you had to match by user ID, but now that bug has been fixed. So when you are importing patrons and overlaying them, you can match on either card number or user ID. So again, for those of y'all that do the patron imports, we had that workaround where you had to match by user ID. Don't have to do that anymore. You can match by either card number or user ID. Okay. There is also another system feature or system preference that will let you go ahead and choose whether or not you want those accounts to be balanced immediately or reconciled or things like that. There we go. Okay, system preference. Do you want the patron balances to be automatically reconciled on each transaction or not? And so again, this is kind of a neat feature. I think most libraries are going to want this on. It solves a long outstanding issue with credits and things like that. What this will do is it'll apply credits against debits in a first in, first out situation. So meaning the oldest debits will be paid off first. And this can be done by patron using a button on a regular basis with the cron, or continuously now with this system preference. So whichever works best for your library, you can still have that button if you want to be able to manually apply those credits. You can have it done automatically every day using the cron, or you can just have the system preference turned on and it's going to do it continuously. So again, more options for being able to solve that credit issue. This next one is something that was sponsored by the Bedford Public Library. And for those of y'all that use Talking Tech, you can now add a parameter to the report so that it will skip patrons that have valid emails. So the patrons that have valid emails and want to receive notices by email and not by phone can now be skipped. So let us know. That is one that would require a ticket. So please, if you're using Talking Tech and you don't want your patrons that have email address to receive those phone calls anymore, open up a ticket and we'll go ahead and modify your outbound files for Talking Tech. Another small change, the help button here in the top right corner. It no longer opens that little pop-up box. It goes ahead and opens the actual manual and takes you straight to that section that you're looking at. So instead of having to do like a double step to get to the full manual, it's going to take you straight out to that manual. So it's basically merged any local and online documentation and takes you straight to that manual instead, since that's where we often wound up anyways. Okay. Another really fun thing, I never was one of those librarians that I thought reports would ever be fun, but now we have a lot of really cool things that we can do with reports. So I'm going to go ahead and look at we have a report here, number 81. What this is going to do is let you create a chart or a graph for your reports. So I'm going to go ahead and run this circulation report. I'm going to go ahead and enter my data. So I want to see for 2018. It goes ahead and runs the report. It gives me my table. And then you can see right up here, I have a new button that says Create Chart. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Create Chart. And then you can go ahead and choose what information you want shown how and where and all of those sorts of things. I am a fan of bar charts. So I'm going to go ahead and choose bar chart. I don't need to change anything else. I can click on draw. And there we go. I get this handy little circ report for charts, or this chart for circ report that we created. And you can go ahead and see the issues, the renewals, returns, and things like that along with that. And then you do have the ability that you can go ahead and save that file. It saves it as an SVG file. So just kind of be aware of that. I agree, Christopher, it's kind of cool. So it's a quick way to be able to kind of do some of those. Now, if you are a heavy duty chart maker, you still might want to just go ahead and download to your CSVs and do all your fancy stuff like that. But if you just want something that's quick, there you go. Very easy to be able to do. Kelly has done an amazing blog post on this too. So definitely go ahead and take a look at that one if this is something that's interesting to you. And again, you can come in here and you can play with it. So I went ahead and did that bar one. I can go ahead and do a pie one right now, but you can see it doesn't really give me what I'm looking for. So just your typical caution when you are doing charts, make sure that you're choosing the right chart for what information that you're looking for. Okay, so another part in reports that I really am fond of with here is we've updated how report SQL is shown. Now I know a lot of us, myself in particular, are not SQL fluent, so I need all the help I can get when I am going ahead and creating reports and writing reports and all of those sorts of things. So when I go ahead and take a look at a report now, really neat, it goes ahead and use colors and line numbers for us. So it really helps when you're looking at that. So you can see that your functions are in purple and your table names are in blue, and your conditions and things like that are in red. And then those line numbers are incredibly helpful. So I'm sure this doesn't happen to y'all, but when I'm writing a report and I get that yellow box that says error on line 5, I know exactly where to come to see line 5 and what that is, and I don't have to guess at what that one is. So that report is called Code Mirror, is really a neat feature to be able to go ahead and kind of just take a look and see how those reports are created, and it just jumps out at you a little bit more. So again, nothing huge, but it's kind of those little things that make us happy. Now, speaking of things that make us happy, this is one that I absolutely love. We all know that circ and find rules are beasts to deal with. And, you know, sometimes when you've got lots of locations, you look at a report and you're like, I have no idea why that is there. We have a new column. Yay and no, because, you know, it's one more column, but it is incredibly helpful. It'll give you a mouse over of where you can add information about that particular circ rule. So if this is an unusual circ rule, or if it's something that, you know, you need to give an explanation for, you've got that ability to go ahead and add a note. So you can add information about why the rule is the way it is. It is limited to 100 characters, so you do need to be a little bit more succinct. But it does give you that ability to go ahead and add that in there. It looks like a link, but it's not. It's just a pop-up. So for instance, you know, we've got someone here, KM, gosh, I wonder who that is, Kelly, that added the note that says 30 days. But again, it gives you that ability to go ahead and have that note there. It will copy, if you copy your rules over, and then to edit it or to delete it, to add it, whatever. Again, your typical edit function, and then you can see that you've got your box right here. That you can go ahead and put that note in there. So again, kind of a neat function to be able to go ahead and add notes to some of those circ rules about why it is that way, or if there's anything that you need to be aware of, things like that. Okay. Another neat function, another neat thing that's been added now, so we scroll to the other side. Holds allowed per day. So again, I know a lot of libraries are really excited about this one, that you can go ahead and say, you know, well, yes, the patron has unlimited holds or whatever, but I only want them to be able to place 2 holds per day. You can go ahead and set that up, again, according to each of your circ rules. It can be set to unlimited, or you can go ahead and control it that way. So again, I know a lot of libraries, for instance, that have unlimited amounts of holds, but I don't want you placing 300 holds each day. I can go ahead and say you can have unlimited holds, but you can only place 10 per day. So again, neat function to go ahead and be able to set that a little bit more, but you can go ahead and limit that per item type for the particular, you know, branch sort of thing, or patron category. Okay. So this rule works in conjunction with the existing rules that we have here. And we'll go ahead and apply the lower of the 2 limits, because, you know, we do have the rules over here too, as far as, you know, by category and things like that. And the rule up here in the top section counts all types of holds, where sometimes with some of these other ones, we only count item level holds. This counts all types of holds. So it is going to go ahead and really kind of make those set down. So as an example, let me see if I can make this trigger the way that I want it to. So I'm going to search the catalog for, again, we're using ponies today. I'm in a pony mood. So if I go ahead and I want to place a hold on this item, so there we go. We're able to go ahead and limit those down. Again, because of our system preferences, I do have the ability to go ahead and override that if I want to. Except I don't have my system preferences turned on to allow that, which may be the case for most of your staff. But it does go ahead and allow that to be limited down as far as maximum holds per day. Okay. Okay, staff permissions. Again, I know not everyone is going to have access to a lot of these, but it's been a really nice enhancement as far as being able to set out staff permissions. So when I go ahead and pull up a patron, in the past, when you were setting staff permissions, you only had the ability under administration to allow 2 of them. One was manage circ rules, and the other one was everything else. And there's a lot of permissions under administration, as you all know. Everything that we saw on that administration page was going to go ahead and be under that set of permissions. There we go. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and grab anybody here. Okay, so now when you're under that set permissions section, okay, and we go to administration. All right, let me try that again. There it is. Now you can see that we have a whole bunch more than just those two. So it gives you a lot more flexibility as far as being able to give staff permission to do things without having them access to everything. Because one of the big ones under administration is the system preferences, which you don't necessarily want to have a lot of staff to have access to. So now you could do things like you could give them access to perhaps authorized values and circ rules without giving them permission to be able to change things such as column configuration or system preferences, those sorts of things. So it breaks down, you can see a lot of these abilities in administration that you can give them to specific staff members. So in particular, looking at things such as the SMS providers, giving access to the Z3950, giving access to patron categories and changing those, record matching rules. So you can look through this and see that there might be some that you want to give to some of your catalogers. There might be some that you want to give to your head of circ to be able to do some of these different things that they weren't able to do before. Instead of just having one person having access to all of them, you can go ahead and say, yes, you can go ahead and, so perhaps for my cataloger, they can have access to managing item types and managing Z3950s, but they don't need to have access to the SMS or the column configuration, things like that. So again, it goes ahead and breaks that down a whole lot more so that you do have that ability to be a little bit more specific with who can have access to what under those different administration sections. So again, kind of a neat function that it does go ahead and break those down to a lot of different things. So that covers the big stuff in our What's New. What questions do y'all have, or is there anything that you want me to go over again?
Donna, what's your favorite?
Oh gosh, I really like that circ note just because there are so many times that libraries have set up a rule for a very specific condition. And with institutional history, we often lose that. So I like that one in there. That's kind of a neat one. What about you?
I like adding a stage file from acquisitions.
Oh, you're one of those catalog people. I do want to say from my perspective though too, the void is a huge benefit. From the educator side, we do a lot of work is trying to figure out why things are certain ways, and sometimes someone will reverse something and then reverse it again, and that doesn't actually have the effect that you think it would. So taking that reverse out and getting that void back, I think is going to be a nice feature. It's going to just make it so much cleaner for everyone to see exactly what happened.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think we touched too heavily on that there's an agenda. So, oops, we have a question.
Yep. Yes, absolutely, Julia. So that one is the system preference. So under administration, we'll go to system preferences, and it's under cataloging. And as we scroll down, it is here under record structure. Mark field for creator ID, for creator name, for modifier ID, and for modifier name. And so you can go ahead and designate which of these fields you want filled in. So for instance, we set up in our records that in the 945A, I want it to show the record creator's borrower number. And then in 945B, I want it to show their name. So you could have one or both. You could just have it show the borrower number, you know, your the patron number, or you could have it show the name or both. So we've got that stored in the 945A and B. And then in the 945C, it is showing the record's last modifier borrower number in 945C and their name in 945D. And again, you can pick and choose which ones you want to show. So for instance, you could just have the record creator name showing in 945B and then the modifier's name showing in 945C or whatever numbers work for y'all. But basically that's what you would do is you would come in here and choose which ones of these you want to have filled in. So whether you want the borrower number or the name, and where do you want that stored in that marked field. And so that way, anytime someone logs in and makes a change to a record or creates the record, that's automatically added in. And that is independent of your logs for your bibliographic updates. Kelly, offhand, do you know if we have a record that shows that?
If you go and, well, I guess you could look to see what was created in the last 2 weeks. My trick to do that is you could go, or you could just create one.
Well, something I'm just going to go ahead and create something.
So I can do it this way by going into the label creator. You want to know the longest way to do something? Ask Kelly how to do it.
Yeah, if you want the shortcuts, I'm usually the one that comes up with that. Let's see. All right. And then in the 2. And then in our 9s, item type, and then save that. Oh, I knew I missed one. 8. There we go. Now we'll save it. So now you can see here in that 945, it went ahead and added automatically my borrower number and my name in those different fields. So again, you can choose which ones you want. You can choose what fields it is. We will give you the standard caution. Don't choose 999C, please, because that will do weird things. And probably not your 952s, since those are used for all of your item level information. The 945 is a great field if you're not using that for anything else. So that would be a good one to go ahead and use there. So.
We have another question. How are patrons able to make notes if they had a problem with the disc or book? So I believe that system preference is already set on, which is allow checkout notes. So that system preference needs to be turned on. And then Donna.
And so when that's turned on, a patron can log in into their account on the OPAC. And so for instance, I can go ahead and say, well, I've got this item checked out right now. And I'm going to go ahead and add a note here and say, chapter 14 has been highlighted heavily, whatever I want to do. And then I can just go ahead and submit that note. And that will go ahead and attach that to that item. And the patron can see that they have submitted that note for it. And then when it comes through on the staff side, it'll go ahead and show there also. So again, they can just, they'll have that box. So right here, you can see that one. Okay. And then again, the patrons would be able to, so it's very straightforward for the patrons. They just log in, they'll have that note field next to anything that they've got checked out, and they can go ahead and submit that note. Again, and that's a system preference as to whether you enable that or not. I think it's a lot more functional now that you can see that immediately when you log into the OPAC. So I'd imagine that more libraries will probably start using it. You know, so. And you can also see as a patron that it tells you that it has been sent to the library, because it does generate email notices and things like that as you want them to be. So. Okay. All right, what other questions do y'all have? again, with 1811, there's nothing huge as far as the workflows and things like that. It's just some nice enhancements to functionalities, things that are just making it a little bit more, smooth, trying to, clarify steps. We do also say, always, comment and add bugs and comment in Bugzilla and things like that, because that's where these all come from, is it's things that people have suggested. Hey, it'd be really nice if we could do this, or wouldn't it be nice if we could do that? Kelly and I were having a conversation with one of the developers the other day, and they were like, well, why do you have to do that many, that many steps to do it? And it's like, well, because that's the way y'all wrote it. And so they do see these things, and they do work on them and try to fix them and make them a little bit smoother. So a remedial reports manual. Jane, that is called Email Bywater, and we will help you with it. There's not really a basic, how to. I do use that reports library. I don't do SQL. I'm hopeless at it. I can guarantee that I will break it the first time I do anything. So I use that reports manual a lot, that reports library a lot. Amazing reports in there. And then the other thing too is that, what I have done is I've gone and looked for some of those free classes online for how to do SQL, because it is basically just that SQL. And so once you understand the basics of doing those sorts of things, the other thing that I will do a lot of times is, I know a lot of folks don't like this one, and some of my coworkers might make fun of me for using it, but I will do the create guided report, and I can hear Kelly rolling her eyes already. But this create guided report is really helpful, because what it's going to do is it walks you through the process. So for me, it helps me figure out, what do I need? Because a lot of times that's the biggest issue with reports, at least for me, Jane, is trying to figure out, what do I need to tell it to do? And so I go ahead and walk through this process, and it makes me crystallize, what information do I need from where? And so I can go ahead and grab the information that I'm looking for. So I want that. I want that, and then for some other reason, I also want the fax number, whatever. But again, it walks you through the process. It makes you think, what do I want? And at the same time, it also gets you a little more familiar with the different tables and the field names, which is a huge part of this, okay? And so you can go ahead and move through with that one. Okay, and then it goes ahead and, again, you walk through, you think about what you're looking for, those sorts of things. And then at the end, you do get that nice little feature as far as being able to see the SQL code and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and just finish that. Okay, I'm not going to run this report, because Lord knows what I asked it to pull and how big it might be. But again, it gives me that structure so I can take a look at that and then go from there. I'm not sure. Results are linear, not a nice table. Yeah, and that. So Jane says she likes the report results in the table form, but a lot of her reports come out are linear. That I would either say, take a look at the blog post that Kelly and Jesse did on creating charts, and that might help you structure your reports in a little way. That feature might be a neat one to help you create some really pretty charts. The other thing, honestly, is just downloading it into your favorite spreadsheet software and using the reports function from there. And that's one of the things that I recently learned, is that those spreadsheets actually do run some of their stuff off of SQL and things like that too. So it's really easy to kind of move things back and forth to be able to go ahead and create those documents and create those charts. So definitely, Jane, take a look at that blog post on creating charts from your reports. I think it'd be really helpful for some of the things that you're looking for. And if not, there is a lot of information out there about using your favorite, downloading that file to then SCV and creating pretty charts from that. So, okay. But yeah, so anyways, what I was saying about the guided reports, again, it is helpful for those of us that are still learning SQL. We can kind of take a look at it, and it just helps us understand what we're doing as far as being able to go ahead and create these reports and figure out what data we need, what don't we need. And I know, Kelly, that you had some challenges when you and Jay-Z were actually trying to create a report to use that chart.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, you have to think, like, what kind of report would a chart be nice in? So a general report of finding bib numbers would not be a report that you would want to display in a chart, because a pie chart. So it really just a bit depends on what kind of information you're gathering.
Okay, I'm looking, I see that Anita asked about the blog post. Was that the one for the reports, Anita? I'm copying that right now and I'm going to paste that into chat. Okay, so this is the blog post that Kelly and Jay-Z did about creating graphs in the report module. But all of our blog posts are on the Bywater site. You can go ahead and, email receipts or voids.
Let's just give them the upgrade note page, because that actually has all the blog posts we've created for everything coming in 1811.
Oh, you're so smart, Kelly.
I know. 2, 4, 6, 8. There's 11 blog posts. Oh, you did it already. There's 11 blog posts for things that are coming in 1811 already done. This is where we'll put all our recorded webinars and a link to the questions and answers. So right there is all those blog posts.
So there's the using voids one. There's the one on emailing receipts. There's also the creating the graphs one too, and everything else, all the other ones that are in there. So, and then as I said that we've got a couple more blog posts coming. Those will be added to that as we go ahead and create those blog posts and get those done. So yeah, but that's a great, this website here, or this page, the 1811 upgrade notes, is going to be fantastic, because again, this is where we're going to go ahead and have those recorded webinars posted so that you can listen to the amazing presentation again. Who needs Netflix? You can watch our blog or our upgrade webinars instead.
And also, if you just go to that education tab at the top, or there's a search bar, and if you search 18.11 or any keyword, you'll get.
So there's our Q&A, and so all these questions that we have asked, we'll go ahead and put those in there too. But it goes ahead and shows you all of these 1811 blog posts that we've done. So. Oh, I like that one. I hadn't seen that image before. That's cute. So.
Oh, and that's a writing reports one, Donna. That might
be
somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe to you. I don't know.
Then that's what I always tell folks. I am amazing when it comes to copying and pasting reports from that reports library. I can do that really well. But honestly, if you haven't looked at the reports library, I definitely encourage you to do that. That is linked from your reports page. And when you're in there, it's also linked inside your reports functions too. Incredibly helpful for being able to kind of figure out what you want to do and give you ideas and gets you started. And as I always say in training, you can't break anything in reports. You're pulling against closed data. So the worst you can do is slow your server down. And typically we're going to know because we monitor that, and we're going to give you a call and say, hey, Anita, what can we help you with as far as those reports go? But no, so don't ever worry about, trying those different reports. You're not going to break anything. That's the most important thing to remember and explore. That's how you get better at things. So. All right, well, if we don't have any further questions, again, I would like to say thank you on behalf of Bywater. We're thrilled that you joined us today for this session on what's new in 1811, and we hope to see you at some of the other sessions that we have coming up. Have a great one.
Thanks, Donna.